Have you ever dreamt of commanding an army? Of assassins, unicorns, and the Polish? Laying siege on cities, with dragons burning down archers and trolls throwing feces at the walls? If so, then you're a little bit fucked up, but that's okay, because Warlords 3 Darklords Rising is definitely the game for you. Darklords Rising, and let's just go with Darklords right now, yes, it's a mouthful to say everything, was recently released on GOG after many years being lost to the sands of time, only playable through questionable means. The game was originally released in 1998, which means that it's very much an old game. In fact, a quick cursory glance at the reviews of the game tells us that certain people, me included, have been waiting years for a legitimate way of playing it again. It's a turn-based strategy game where the goal is to establish dominance over the other, lesser lords through classic medieval diplomacy. You have cities, but so does your opponent. You want to unburden your opponent of the laborious, bureaucratic, and boring process of running said cities, because you're a good guy. So you wander over yonder with your entourage and initiate a dialogue, only to have the negotiations catastrophically break down when your gnoll makes an unseemly comment towards the host's daughter. So now you have to fight. Luckily, you brought your army of Slayer Knights to the party. Once the party has ended and your Slayer Knights have treated your host's face like a sledgehammer treats a face, you move forward and repeat the process until every other faction agrees with your point of view. The game sees you power walking across a map, pillaging and or occupying as many bases as you can, produce units in said bases to feed your ever-evolving horde of bloodthirsty creatures. You keep moving, you keep murdering. Now, usually in fantasy fare like this, you're allowed to pick one of several standard fantasy races like elves, knights, orcs, and etc. That's not Dark Souls Rising. Of course you can if you want to, but why go the boring route when the brilliance of this game comes from Frankensteining together a faction from the 95 available units in the game? You like dwarves but are disappointed they only have one head? Try dwarf mutants. Personally, I enjoy inflicting maximum amount of suffering to my artificial enemies, so I tend to go with units of the viral kind. This is my custom army, made up of all kinds of monsters, all of them with some sort of cross-species STD. I swear Papa Nurgle would be so proud. When creating your personal murder squad, you can choose anything from assassins, peasants, dragons, a host of different undead, knights, trolls, unicorns, the list goes on. But my favorite unit is the cockatrice, a giant, steroid-obsessed, plucked chicken with the movement of Olympic gold medalist Kenenisa Bekele. Different units have different uses. Early game, yes, you want to crank out some of those cheaper cannon fodder units so your bases don't get taken over, but you also want to have at least one base creating more powerful units, so that you don't get murdered late game. Combat is simple but at the same time complicated. Battle is decided through a complex set of equations made by the game's proprietary algorithm. But for the less mathematically inclined, your units have strength and hit points. If a unit has more strength than the thing it's trying to kill, it will be more likely to come out of the battle victorious. Of course, because we are living by the die here, victory is not guaranteed, so before you send your units to attack that fully upgraded city with demons in it, stop and consider your actions. Because most units in Darklords have some sort of bonus. For example, green dragons gives 5+ fair, making the other armies do less damage. Assassins has assassinate, giving them a chance to one-shot most creatures. The Polish has 5+ masculinity, and so on and so forth. Leading the charge is your waifu/hero. At the start of each game, you're giving a random hero. The game has 15 of them, ranging from the general to the shaman. The hero is important, very important, as the hero gives the units under his command extra strength and or health. or is so spooky to his enemies that they shit themselves and have to fight in soiled underwear, giving them a 5+ to depression. The best heroes in the game are the Wizard and the Summoner. The Wizard is old, weak and prone to fits of dementia. However, the Wizard also has access to the teleportation spell, which means he can nope out of there the moment he feels like he's about to get reverse cowgirled by an army of angry gnolls. That also means he can resupply once his army dwindles down to only a few units. Also, before I forget, the Wizard also gains access to a handy spell called Shatter, which will destroy any artifacts nearby, including your own. Don't do that. The Summoner is the only other hero with teleportation, but instead of using spells that are sure to destroy your own property, he has access to spells to call forth a demonic horde. But just because these two heroes have access to Starfleet technology doesn't mean the other ones are bad. In fact, quite the opposite. A fully upgraded hero is a force to be reckoned with. The General or Paladin can take smaller, weaker units and stir them into a passionate frenzy, and if they have a dragon, well, you're shit out of luck, man. A Vampire is like a reverse General, as he's more focused on tearing down the opposing army's self-esteem by viciously shaming them. And he can fly. That should be added. Warriors and Barbarians hit things really hard and has access to skills that allow for one-shotting different high-level enemies. The Thief and Ranger has excellent cardio, which means they can move far. The Necromancer can summon skellies, spookies, and brain-dead zombies, no surprise there. Alchemists creates golems. The Shaman, Bard, and Monk gets access to spells that buff your boys in different ways. And the Priest is fantastic if you enjoy being blue. Games are more often than not one depending on the strategic use of your hero. For example, dotted around the map are ruins. Since the hero is the only unit that comes with a doctorate in archaeology, that makes them the only unit competent enough to explore them. And it is absolutely necessary to desecrate as many ruins as possible, since they hide all kinds of treasure. If you are really lucky, you might find some allies, and that will allow you to continue your murder party. If by chance you have some sort of natural aversion to grave robbing, your enemies will take advantage and you will get steamrolled into oblivion. Another vital aspect is questing. When your hero is in a city, they will have the option of embarking on a quest. You can choose between 3 difficulties: easy, normal, and fuck off. Choosing an easy quest to start with is recommended, as on completion you might be rewarded with valuable gold or even more valuable troops. If you, however, choose normal, you might have to jog halfway across the map to occupy some godforsaken town that you'll lose anyway. Sure, the rewards might be more shiny, but that doesn't mean much if your hero gets slaughtered by a group of roaming enemies. And watching your hero grow in strength by leading your custom army of degenerates is what the game is all about. It's pure bliss. Watching your hero then confront an enemy hero will result in a feeling of painful tension, followed by either sweet relief or a strong urge to commit necrope. The game has 5 campaigns, a bunch of scenarios, and random maps. You can customize each game to make sure you get the preferred experience, that is, unless you play the campaign where you are forced to play as a specific army. And by the way, if you play the campaign, just bend over and get ready to take it, because the game is hard and cruel and will leave you with a desperate need for antidepressants. Seriously, the campaign will first lull you into a false sense of security by giving you a reasonable and well-balanced challenge before utterly decimating you and reducing your mental image of yourself to that of a crying child. It is absolutely imperative that you manage to keep your heroes alive during the campaign, as you are allowed to carry 3 of the strongest over to the next map. That is why you should always consider every single engagement seriously before hurling yourself headfirst into battle. Of course, you can't just be a bitch and save scum it, but come on! Don't you have any self-respect? The answer is probably no, but at least I tried. Final score. When it comes to scoring games, I don't believe in numbers. In fact, I don't believe in numbers at all. I don't think they exist. But anyway, I get ahead of myself. Listen, I rate this game a fully shaven hamster. Definitely buy this game. It's only $6 on GOG. I remember as a kid, I spent like days at a time playing this game. I used to invite all of my friends over, and half of the time we spent playing the game, we actually just spent building new and unique armies to fit each of our personalities. It was absolutely fantastic. I promise you, you will have a great time playing this game. And finally, I also have to give a big, strong thank you to the people in the sanatorium. Thank you for donating both money and body parts. It means the world to me. It means I am allowed to continue doing this, experimenting, having a great time, and yeah. Thank you guys. And as always, remember that I love you in that terrible, terrible way that only I can love you. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.